Hi, this is Bruce Lindsay, working with Liz Gallo, continuing to document the stories of veterans. Today we're with World War II veteran Paul Steich. Paul is a veteran of the Battle of Saipan, and as you'll see, Saipan was a key location in the Pacific Theater due to the fact that these islands are within bomber range of Japan.
My name is Paul Elwood Steich. I was born in Hanover, and I will start with this. I was born into a Christian home. God was worshipped, the Bible read, and prayer was offered. Church meant a day of rest at that time. And that stuck with me the rest of my life. And I know that I don't think there was many days, if any, that my mother did not pray for me. And I feel that that brought me through many situations and trials that come. And I'm always thankful for that. And we lived on a farm. I had one brother. When I was born, he was already 10 years old. And due to the differences, we were never close. We didn't argue or have a fall-on. It's just that we weren't close. And he died at 83 from heart problems. My father died at 93, and my mother was 2 months short of 101. So I have a little ways to go yet. And then, like I said, we lived on a farm, and time went on and the world was changing. Then the war came, and I was decided to enlist in the Air Corps. And I would see planes right next door was the airport, and I had the urge to join. So I went to Harrisburg and went through the physical, and they wouldn't take me. They didn't pass me. So I come home. Well, then they drafted me. I went back to Harrisburg. Probably the same people tested me and said, "You're in the Army." At that time, they were picking Army and Navy. And I was glad I did not get in the Navy. And my brother served in the Second World War. He was an engineer in Germany. And like I said, I think God brought me through. War is not fun. And
Do you want to go over when you got drafted and how you went to basic training?
When I was drafted, and draft board said that we were to meet in front of the board office. It was, if you're familiar with the Roger McAllister Hotel in York Street, and we got the board bus, went to York, got on a train, and went to Fort George G. Meade in Maryland. And we were only there a day or two, and then we got on a train in the evening, and we woke up in the morning at Camp Edwards on Cape Cod, Massachusetts. And we really didn't have just all basic training. We got immediately assigned to jobs on the guns. So we had both. We had basic training and training on the equipment. And so it wasn't like after a certain time that you were through basic training. And in basic training, there was miles of hiking. Yeah, we couldn't find anything else to do. Let's go for a hike. And then we test fire the guns. They'd have airplanes flying, pulling a big metal screen. And that's what we shot at, the screen.
So they were anti-aircraft artillery.
Yes. And that's, we got our training. Our gun crew, it was called the 501st Gun Battalion. It had 4 batteries, A, B, C, D. I was in D battery. And each battery had about 120 men. We had radar, and then we had machines to tell how fast the plane was flying, how high it was, and all this got fed into a computer. And the guns, we put them in automatic, and all 4 guns would move at the same time. And so that was all figured out, how far ahead you had to shoot at the plane. And so we spent time on that. We had, in basic training, we had a lot of free time. And I had 1 furlough, a 7-day furlough in that time. And then when we got the orders to move, that's when we went 5 days to California, and then 5 days there. And on the boat, it was an Italian, a captured Italian ship, the Monticello. And it was a nasty ride over there. But I'm glad that I was sent to the Pacific. I think just weather-wise for me, and I know so many guys got frostbite over in Europe, and so we arrived on Oahu, and we were stationed, our guns were stationed overlooking, in a sugarcane field, overlooking Pearl Harbor. And our job was at sundown, all American planes are grounded. And then anything that flew, we shot at. And that's how we stationed there in a little camp. They were just shacks, really, that we lived in. And then word got that we were moving. At that time, they tell you nothing, where you're going, how long, what to expect. And the only thing I can remember, the general told us one evening, he said, I think you fellows will see a different type of 4th of July this year. And so we went, we packed up and went into waiting for the load on the boats. And so we went aboard ship called the Dashing Wave. And there was 8 ships in the convoy and 2 destroyer escorts. And we, again, not knowing where we were going, the only thing we knew, we weren't going where it was cold. And we wound up after 21 days. And one time, it was a Sunday afternoon, and the water was just as calm and beautiful. All of a sudden, the DEs they were kicking cans off, depth charges, and each ship took off on its own in different direction. And we never heard what it was or what happened to it. But that was the only incident that happened. And we were exercise on the boat was limited due to the space and the amount of men that was on. So we got down to Saipan. We pulled into the harbor. It was in the evening, and the planes had just went back to the carrier, and the battleships started shelling the island. And I couldn't get over the size of those shells. You could actually see them going through the air. You know, that they were that big. But prior to that, they had bombed the island for weeks probably. And then the next morning, the advanced unit had gone in, and they had a small area of land. And the next morning, we got a landing craft and went in, hit the reef, the door opened, you got out and walked. And we water up to about chest deep. And we walked quite a ways, I remember that. And of course, if you know the Army, things don't go as they're planned. But they landed us at the wrong place. And we had to walk in the water anyway. And we took up a position there, but due to all the commotion, our equipment didn't come in till the next day. So for a short period of time, we were infantry. We got off the boat, they gave us 3 days rationing, wrapped in wax paper. And the 4th day, you got a Hershey candy bar. So you were on your own till then. And then as they would progress the front line, we'd move up closer. And they had incidents where the Japanese would put on Banzai attacks, and one night they almost broke through the line. And they had other outfits moving in with us, and it was a commotion for a while. But I think the deadliest thing I saw is a flamethrower. There's so many caves there, and they'd have tanks with flamethrower. They'd pull up to the entrance, shoot a flame in, then seal it shut. And who knows how many people and how their life ended. And then we got moved again, and we went up. It's called Suicide Hill. It's just a rise, and then it's a straight drop. And that is where a lot of Japanese threw their children over, then they jumped. And it was nothing but rocks. And they kept announcing, don't do that. But they were taught, you give your life for your country. And I think the last plane that we shot down was, it was a calm night, not much going on. And there was a mountain there, Mount Tapitai, and one lonely Japanese plane come in low. Radar didn't pick him up until he come over the mountain. And he was heading over us. So we waited a little bit. As soon as he dropped the bomb, then we cut loose on him. And I don't know where he came from, where he was going, what his purpose was, but he didn't get home, I'll say that. Yep. And then when it calmed down and they said the island was secure, then we just went back to maintenance of the equipment. And then the island next to Saipan is Tinian. That's where the plane left with the atomic bomb. And then they decided to take that. And it was close, very close. And they would shell artillery and so forth over there. And they took that island. That's when they built the runway then. And the plane took off. I often think about their orders. When you leave here, don't come back. You find some other spot. And in a way, it was unfortunate. But when I think about the amount of lives that were saved on account of it. And there wasn't too much going on then. It quieted down and tried to get up. We were living in 6-man tents. And then I got hurt of a non-combat injury I had. And they took me to the hospital, field hospital. The next thing I knew, I was on an airplane heading back to Oahu. And then I did have problems with just my hip. And I had problems for a while after I was out. But thank God it wasn't continually. And then I was in the hospital for a while at Schofield Barracks. And then I went to a replacement depot and got put with the 5th Medical Supply Depot. And it was near Honolulu. And it was at the end of the bus route from Honolulu. And there I worked in the motor pool, and I enjoyed it while I liked all the guys I was with, and any outfit I was got. And the word come into the motor pool that on Sunday morning they would like to have 2 drivers to volunteer to go over to the Navy nurses wherever they lived near Pearl Harbor and take them on a picnic. Well, I thought, this was tempting. So I signed up. Got up, we drove over, got the girls, they lived on the, and as she told me, she said, they're going back to Fort Shasta. It wasn't a picnic, they went back, it was an officers club get together. I had visions of somewhere on the beach somewhere.
I never heard that story. I want you to tell a story about the hike. That always cracks me up. Dad, the hike. Tell them the story about the hike. The hike. You know, how you are in the back and...
Oh! We so often, let's go for a hike today. And like I said, I was at Battery D, which was last. Then they went by the height of the guy. I was short, so I'm back further towards the end. And I could never figure it out. You go for a hike, everybody seems to be walking the same. The people up front, the people in the back had to run sometimes to keep up. So we were on a hike, and I started to weave my way up closer to the front of the line. And the captain said, fall in. So I jumped in. Now I'm first. The words out of his mouth I'll never forget. About face.
I love that story, Dad. I love it.
But the day turned out better. I did get, we got back to the barracks, and then they called me in the office and said that you can have a 3-day pass. So that's the good thing that happened.
That's great.
Yes. And then they told me that I had enough points, I could go home. And went to the depot where they were getting shipments to come back. And they kept saying this was getting near Christmas. And they'd say a boat's coming in, but it's full. Plane, they don't have any room. So another fellow and I from Philly decided it was getting close and a 5-day boat ride. I think I'm going to stay on air shipment. And we got finally a plane come in about 3 o'clock in the morning, and we flew back. And I got home I think it was one day before Christmas. Come into Indian Town Gap. That's where I was discharged. And went from there by bus to Harrisburg, got the train to York, and it was snow. And they had bus service between York and Hanover. And I caught the last bus heading towards Hanover that night. So I got into Hanover about midnight. Well, then I didn't know where the police station was or where do you make a phone call. And finally, in the distance, I saw police. And so I made a call, and Dad took me home. And then well, like I knew my wife. We started dating, and we got married shortly. I'll put it that way. And we had all told we had five children. We have 8 grandchildren, 13 great-grandchildren, and 4 great-great-grandchildren. And we, unfortunately, our oldest son was 15 years old, and he was on his way to school, and he was hit by a car and died instantly. And then earlier that year, my wife gave me a surprise. She delivered twins. And what do you think her name is?
Jack.
Got it. Yeah. Jack and Hill. And we wondered why, you know. But then when our oldest son died, that helped us through a sad time. We had a good life. I got out of the service and I thought, well, I guess I got to get a job. Went to the employment office and they said, oh, there's a place just moved in and they're hiring. So I went there, talked to the guy, and he hired me at 10 o'clock in the morning. 1 o'clock, I went to work. And I become an upholsterer. And it was quite some time later I found out that I went to the wrong place. I was supposed to go the other side of the building. And I spent 32 and a half years an upholsterer. I loved that. And but I felt there were things I needed to change. And then I went to work in a machine shop. And that place, after about 7 years, they run that place into the ground. I'm out. So then I went to work at the Hanover Lantern, which makes outdoor lighting. And there's these lights around, the low lights, not the high ones, are Hanover lights. So more than likely, I worked there 20 years. I worked till I was 83 and a half. And then my wife had difficulties, and then I retired. Yep.
So what would you say to young people today?
I feel sorry for them. Where the world can like we just talked, wars, fought in the war, and the men that gave their lives, and now we're in the condition we're in now. It's hard for me to accept it. And now it seems like God, the church, everything is just pushed out. And without that, what chance do they have?